We come to this place for terror. We come to Sinful Cuts to scream, to laugh, to cry. Because we need that. All of us. That overwhelming dread we feel when the lights begin to dim and we go somewhere we've never been before. Not just terrified, but somehow possessed. Together. Horrifying images spoken directly into your ear. Kills that you can feel. Somehow, slaughter feels good in a place like this. Our slashers feel like the worst part of us. And stories feel insane and unstoppable. Because here, they are. Sinful Cuts. We make horror horrible.
Hey sinners, I'm Shannon.
And I'm Sean.
And this is Sinful Cuts.
And boy, oh boy, are we talking about foot trauma today.
Just a tad.
Oh my gosh. Of course, we're talking about 1990s. Rob Reiner directed Stephen King based off his novel Misery.
Yay!
I must have watched the hobbling scene 5 times.
Oh my god, I've watched it none times. I played, the scene plays out, and I will always cover my eyes.
Weird.
I can barely even watch, like, the second ankle, even though that one's off camera.
This is 100% true. I watched this movie yesterday with my lovely bride, Jennifer, and it got to the hobbling scene, and I laughed. And she looked at me and said, "How can you laugh? I couldn't even watch... ... What's wrong with you?" And I don't have an answer to that.
Did she book a therapy session immediately?
She slept in the basement. She's like, you're a psychotic person. No. Just kidding. No, I love that scene for so many reasons, which we'll get into because I thoroughly researched how they did it. Because you know me and practical effects. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's my kink. Sorry, I'm weird. But okay, let's talk about Stephen King's Misery because this is, as far as winter horror goes...
Oh, yeah.
It's at the top.
It's absolutely at the top.
And as far as horror movies goes... It's at the top. And I keep raising my hand. And as far as Stephen King novel to movie adaptations, it's at the top. I mean, it's... Okay. I have to do this to you. I'm not content unless I put you on the spot. Every single podcast. All right. We have not planned this. We have not spoken about it, but let's just do it off the cuff. Top 3 Stephen King novel to movie adaptations.
Ooh, okay.
And you can't include Misery.
No, I was gonna say actually this is one. It's right on my to read list, and I haven't read it yet.
Okay.
I really did enjoy. Okay, so I have to stick to the movie adaptations, right?
Yep, it's gotta be movie.
I really enjoyed Christine.
Yep, me too.
Really enjoyed The Shining. The movie's a whole other story. We'll have to revisit that. If you saw our post, we lost that entire episode.
I know. But I think it happens to every podcast at least once. But
I say maybe next winter we'll go back and revisit it.
We had a lot to say, so I think we need to.
We did have a lot to say. But either way, the book is fucking fantastic. But I think they're both.
So we're counting Christine. And The Shining.
So yeah, Christine and The Shining. So they're both short stories, though. So that equals one, maybe. I don't know. So there's a mixture.
Sure.
Yeah, why not? There's a mixture of The Body, which certainly just Stand By Me.
Okay.
And I love Shawshank Redemption.
You took my number 1. Shawshank would be my number 1.
Okay.
Christine is going to be my number 2. Isn't that weird? Because I think a lot of people would be like, really, guys? It just clicks with us.
But it was... No. If you haven't read them, read them.
Yeah.
And you'll know why.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say about that.
Gosh, my third could possibly be Stand By Me, but I don't know. Oh boy. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to go. I think I'm gonna have to go with Stand By Me.
Okay. That was a movie that was on repeat when I was a child.
It's just such a vibe.
Mm-hmm.
It's just such a cozy, just incredible vibe, and it hits so many emotional beats. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to go with that one.
Yes, and it's fitting to mention that too for this movie, Misery, that we're doing for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, Rob Reiner directed that as well, which is, I think, the reason why that Stephen King agreed to finally sell the rights to Misery.
Yeah.
Because he did enjoy the way Rob Reiner directed that movie, rightfully so, because it's a gorgeous movie. And he agreed to direct and produce it.
Guess what? Stephen King, in my research, Stephen King, he was the only choice. He said, Rob Reiner either needs to direct or produce. If he's not involved in either one, I'm not selling it.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was it.
Exactly.
No dollar baby for that one.
Yeah.
Let's get into pre-production. We already mentioned. Oh well, let's give the hard yards. Can I just mention who's involved?
Do you want me to read the plot really fast for those who haven't seen it? Okay.
Yes, please, ma'am.
So without further ado, this is Misery.
You almost died. You have a compound fracture of the tibia in both legs, and the fibula in the right leg is fractured too. And as soon as the road's open, I'll take you to a hospital. In the meantime, you've got a lot of recovering to do. There is nothing to worry about. You're gonna be just fine. I'm your #1 fan. My name is Annie Wilkes.
I think one of my clients, Paul Sheldon, might be in some kind of trouble.
You mean Paul Sheldon, the writer? Well, everybody sure likes those Misery books.
They had it at the store, Paul.
They said he checked out last Tuesday. Isn't that a little strange?
I guess it was kind of a miracle you finding me.
In a way, I was following you.
You were following me.
Oh, Paul, I've read everything of yours, but the Misery novels. You must be a good man, or you could never have created such a wondrous, loving creature as Misery Chastain.
You're very kind.
The presumption must now be that Paul Sheldon is dead.
You dirty bird. How could you? Misery Chastain cannot be dead.
Misery Spirit is still alive.
I don't want her spirit! I want her! And you murdered her!
You don't think he's dead, do you?
And don't even think about anybody coming for you, because I never called them. Nobody knows you're here. And you better hope nothing happens to me. Because if I die, you die. I know you've been out. Is this what you're looking for? Eventually, you'll come to accept the idea of being here.
Annie, whatever you're thinking about doing, please don't do it. Annie, for God's...
Shh, darling. Trust me.
God's sake.
It's for the best. God, I love you.
Okay, so synopsis is, after a famous author is rescued from a car crash by a fan of his novels, he comes to realize that the care he is receiving is only the beginning of a nightmare of captivity and abuse.
I mean, well, all right, we'll get to it. Okay. I know that you could say this about the premise of most novels. They just start with this simple idea. But don't you feel like horror novels specifically, it's like the simplest idea, and then the tapestry that they create based off of that?
Right.
Because it's just like, okay, a successful novelist in his own right meets someone who is, a little more than obsessive.
Just a tad.
It's so simple.
Yeah.
And then you look at what we get from it.
Mm-hmm.
A lovely, beloved household pet happens to get bit by a rabid bat. I mean, it's just I can't even with this guy. I can't even with Stephen King. Kisses all over your face. Okay, so let's give credit where credit is due. So we have Misery, comes out in 1990 on a budget of $20 million. It makes domestically $60.3, so it's tripled its budget. Mm-hmm. It's a certified hit.
Yeah.
We'll get into post-production, but spoiler alert, I think you already know this, sinners. It was well received.
Very well received.
So we have Rob Reiner is the director. Like we had mentioned previously, if he's not producing or directing, this movie's not happening, according to Stephen King.
Luckily, he decided to do both.
We have the just rock and roller of Ayatollah, master screenwriter, William Goldman. All right, Sinners, let me just give you some of William Goldman's bona fides, and then I'm going to tell you a little personal story I have with William Goldman.
Ooh.
Yes. So, the Paul Newman movie, Harper. If you haven't seen Paul Newman in Harper, please check it out. It's a 60s riff on the Private Eye movie. Paul Newman's having so much damn fun in this. And I think a lot of the reason why Paul Newman's having so much fun, and it really comes off the screen, is because he's working with the William Goldman screenplay. It's just crackerjack. Then you have this movie called The Hot Rock, which is a heist movie starring Robert Redford. It's so much fun. If you haven't seen The Hot Rock, it's one of those movies also that takes place and is shot in and takes place in New York in the 70s. And New York in the 70s is its own character.
Oh.
It is just, oh my God, it's so great. And then, of course, we got to go to Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Mm-hmm. One of my all-time, that is a desert island movie for me.
Oh, yeah.
Then you've got The Princess Bride.
Yes.
Based off of his novel.
I was going to bring that up, yeah.
Then you have Magic with Anthony Hopkins, which is kind of like a kooky, I don't know if I'd necessarily, I guess I'll call it horror. But Magic is about a ventriloquist doll, and honestly, you're not sure who the dummy and who's in control in this movie.
That's fun.
And it's a lot of fun. And go see it. That's good stuff. Then you have Marathon Man, which is just possibly also a desert island movie for me. Dustin Hoffman, Laurence Olivier, the Wasserengel. Olivier is playing the most nefarious Nazi concentration camp doctor, and where this movie go. Oh, and then you got Roy Scheider in this movie as well. Oh boy, Marathon Man is just it's an all-time gem for me. And then he wrote they did the screenplay for All the President's Men. So William Goldman just has this hot hand forever as far as his screenplays. But what William Goldman's real claim to fame is that he was what's called a script doctor. Mm-hmm. So studios would have a script and they're like, you know what, we're like halfway there.
Okay.
We need someone to punch it up. And they would get William Goldman to come in. And sometimes he's credited. A lot of the times he's not credited. My man William always got paid, though. So good on you.
Yes.
And he also happens to be madly in love with William Goldman. R.I.P. Because he also happens to be one of those, New York presence. You'd see him bouncing around the village, or you'd see him bouncing around uptown. He was just one of those guys who lived and worked in New York, and he was quintessentially New York. And I think it's not as if it comes through in his work. He's got a very, varied body of work, but he's just fucking cool. He's just cool as fuck. And I just love William Goldman. He's on my vision board for everything,
Nobody knows anything. Nobody has the least idea what's going to work. And screenwriters are the basis, I think, of everything. Because if you have a shitty script, even if you had Bergman or Fellini or David Lean, it's not going to work as a movie. It's all fucking story. That's really all it is. If the story works, if the audience, if you're moved by whatever the goddamn story is, you have a chance to have a movie that works.
So my story about William Goldman is that a very, very dear friend of mine, one of my best friends actually, her sister was his personal assistant.
Oh, cool.
And my friend, one of my best friends, Carol, the one I'm talking about, she said, "Hey, man, you love William Goldman, maybe too much." Certainly not going to bring you around him because you're weird. But why don't you give me...
Was it Annie Wilkes style?
Yeah, exactly. This ties into it. I'm his #1 fan.
You would have hobbled him.
I had a first edition of Marathon Men.
Okay.
And she said, "Give me your copy and I'll get it signed by him." So I give the copy, weeks go by, and I kind of forgot about it. And then I met up with Joe and Carol, and she hands me the book, and I open it, and there's a signature by William Goldman, and what does he write in it? "Hey, Sean, be careful at the dentist." William Goldman. And I'm just like, man, I thought you were cool before. So, yeah, William, I have a thing with William Goldman.
That's hilarious.
I absolutely adore him. So, of course, we'd mentioned this book is based off of Stephen King's novel Misery. Shannon, I feel like I'm going to put this on you. Do you, when we get to it, do you want to talk about like how that ties into his addiction and what he was going through at the time, or like that this is basically like a metaphor for his struggles with addiction?
Yeah, we dipped into it a little bit, but we can when we get to that point. Sure,
cool.
Absolutely.
Then we have this is produced by Rob Reiner and Andrew Scheinman. Andrew Scheinman, who we'll talk about in pre-production in a moment, is really the man responsible for this happening.
Yes, he was traveling in the airport, right, and came across it.
Yep.
And he was like, I'm sure, and he went in like buying the book, thinking so it's probably already purchased.
How many friggin' movies do you think came to inception because of flights?
Or just perusing in a bookstore,
right?
Yeah.
Just
fun fact. Actually, no. Maybe I'll save it. Actually,
save it because your eyes just lit up.
I'm gonna save it because I have such a fun fact about a completely different movie, and I actually think it has an anniversary coming up. So you know what? I'm gonna zip it. Sorry.
Save it. All right. The last two I wanted to mention is that we have Mark Shaman did the music, but then the cinematographer is Barry Sonnenfeld. Barry Sonnenfeld, gang, who is the director of Men in Black.
Yeah. All of them, right?
Also, I don't know if you ever watched the all of them.
Oh yeah.
Did you ever watch the show Pushing Daisies with Lee Pace, Kristen Chenoweth?
I never gave it a go.
Oh, it's
good.
It's so damn adorable, and it's the Barry Sonnenfeld aesthetic. You know, it's very Barry Sonnenfeld. Let me just put it that way. You know, like his kooky kind of and I mean kooky in the best way possible. Sinners is not derogatory. His kooky kind of vibe with the Men in Black is very present in Pushing Daisies. Of course, it was good, so it got canceled. You know, but it's
how that works. Yeah,
it's out there for you. But I just wanted to mention. So Barry Sonnenfeld, if you're not familiar with him, he was the cinematographer on, ready for these movies, 3 O'Clock High. Think about the camera work in 3 O'Clock High. Blood Simple, the Coen Brothers' Blood Simple. Think about the camera work in Blood Simple. A movie that not a lot of people have seen, but is very fun. Throw Mama from the Train. It's Danny DeVito and it's Billy Crystal. It's kind of a late 80s gem. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's fun.
Okay, so I've never seen or heard of that, but I'm not surprised that it stars Danny DeVito and Billy Crystal. It
right?
sounds like a movie that those two would star in.
If a mama's getting thrown off a train, there's a good chance that Billy Crystal and Danny DeVito are involved somehow.
I'm already playing the movie in my head, and I know nothing about it.
All right, I'm just going to sell it just a touch more. The mother is played by Anne Ramsey, who is Mama Fratelli from the Goonies. So you have to see this movie.
All I need to know.
You gotta see it.
All I need to know. That sounds amazing to me.
It's real fun. It's real fun. And then I just wanted to mention he was the cinematographer on When Harry Met Sally, which, I mean, as far as cinematography goes, I don't know if it's like off the charts impressive for the Sinners, but this next one is, and that is a movie called Miller's Crossing. The camera work in that movie is hands down incredible.
Okay.
Just flat out incredible.
And When Harry Met Sally, that was directed by Rob Reiner too.
Sure was. Yeah. So then, of course, Barry Sonnenfeld goes on to direct, but he is just a master cinematographer. So I just wanted to mention who is involved. It's distributed by Columbia Pictures. It is starring James Caan, Kathy Bates, Richard Farnsworth, Frances Sternhagen, and Lauren Bacall are basically our main players.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, this movie is almost shot like a play.
Yeah. So which worked out pretty well for Kathy Bates. So going back to William Goldman, so Rob Reiner obviously really trusted William Goldman, first of all, because he helped him out with the Princess Bride, as you mentioned before. So William Goldman suggested for the Princess Bride Andre the Giant as Fezzik.
Get out.
So that was his idea.
Shut your freaking mouth, Shannon. How long you been sitting on that one?
since you pressed record. But so I think needless to say, Reiner and Goldman were already pretty good friends.
Oh, I love it. Oh, I love those stories.
So it was Goldman who suggested Kathy Bates.
And now I'm gonna throw this at you. And why do you think he suggested Kathy Bates? Lady in the back with the red hair.
Raising my hand, Sinners. So, well, at least from what I found out anyway. Maybe you have a different answer. But, Reiner, so obviously the story is, if you know the story, so based on a bestseller novel who gets basically kidnapped, so to speak, if you will, by his number one fan, where if you were to put the two of them on the streets on any given day, you obviously would recognize the best-selling author and not so much the the girl next, not the girl next door, whatever, just a girl on her own, regular person. So Rob Reiner really wanted a well-known face to play Paul Sheldon. So I think they had a few other options that they were going to go with. But,
I'm going to go through it. We're going to do Smash or Trash.
Yeah. I heard it's almost like the same of The Shining. Yeah. It was very similar. But anywho.
And The Thing.
And The Thing, yes.
It turns out there was only 12 male actors during the 80s and 90s.
During this time. But yeah, so he said he wanted, a very famous face for Paul Sheldon. And he's like, and I want kind of like a very not well-known person at all for Annie Wilkes. And I don't exactly know how Goldman knew of Kathy Bates.
New York
but
theater
she
scene.
was, I was going to say she was only a stage actress, so I'm just assuming he saw her. And and
William Goldman's our New York guy.
Being involved,
he's deep into the theater. Those are his people.
Mm-hmm.
He's palling around. He's a avid theater goer, and he knew her work.
Yeah.
And he's like, she's gonna knock this out of the park.
Yeah.
She knocks it so far out of the park, she lands up with a Golden Globe and an Oscar.
Yeah.
God bless.
Yeah.
That fantastic.
Is that the only movie of Stephen King's adaptation to win anything?
Yep.
Right? Anything.
So far.
Well, yeah.
Yep, so far. When I did my research, and of course, because I'm bad at my job, I didn't write down what the movies were, but there's only about 6 movies that have won Oscars that are directly related to horror. We've got, the ones I do know, you've got Jodie Foster, you've got Anthony Hopkins from Silence of the Lambs. Silence of the Lambs is horror.
Yeah.
You've got Ruth Gordon from, she won Best Supporting for Rosemary's Baby.
Okay.
That's all. I know there's a couple more, but that's it for me.
Okay.
I can't remember anymore. But that's our New York connection, and Rob Reiner is smart enough to listen to William Goldman when he says this person is all you need for this part. That's a great working relationship.
Yes, I agree. And Reiner, he didn't really go too far into it, but I did see an interview with him where he, especially, fast forwarding to the success that this movie ended up having, it was such a great feeling for Reiner, because he was like, he says like it was a great success for me, which was awesome because apparently I think he got a lot of flack for wanting to direct this movie because he didn't. At the time he was known for. Okay, so this came out in 1990. So obviously we already mentioned The Princess Bride, which was 87, but he also did Stand By Me, which was 86, and This Is Spinal Tap, which is 84. He did I forgot the year, but again we mentioned it already, When Harry Met Sally. So if you're just picking up it was more like drama. He did romance,
and he was known for comedy.
And known for comedy, yeah.
And especially coming from All in the Family, he was pigeonholed into that genre.
Yeah, so this was definitely something very different.
The idea of every artist, what every artist goes through, whether they're writers or painters or musicians or actors or directors, they can get typed, they can get pigeonholed. You can get into a certain rut where especially if you become successful, you're frightened to break out of that rut. When I first started becoming a director, when I wanted to be a director, I was just known as a TV actor in a sitcom, and it was very, very hard for me to get people to accept me as a film director.
Action.
Oh, gracious. Goodness gracious.
I've never made anybody scream in my life. I've never gotten an audience to scream. They may scream because they hate the film. Hey, this stinks. But they never scream like, I'm scared. And to watch the people like jumping out of the seats I can see why people like to make movies like this. It's fun. It's fun to watch them jump like that. Almost as fun as making them laugh.
But the thing was that he knew drama, and this movie does have a little comedic moments in it as well.
Oh, I think there's a lot of. I think this movie is so successful because of his comedy background. He brings a lot of that in. I mean, the relationship between Francis Sternhagen and Richard Farnsworth as husband and wife. I could watch a movie of just those two arguing over coffee.
Yeah.
I mean, those scenes sing, and they work, and they don't bring you out of the movie, because then you go back to the farm and the horror that's happening there. But that's a masterful hand that can jump between those light moments and the heavy moments, but it neither one takes you out.
Exactly. And it's still related to what's going on. Like, Buster is the sheriff investigating the disappearance of Paul Sheldon.
My Buster. I mean, sorry, Sinners would spoil the hell out of these movies. Yeah. And guess what? We're also going to spoil a book. When Buster gets killed in the book, it's just so tragic. It's just so tragic in both forms. But you brought up something that I want to expand on.
I did?
You did. You did.
What did I say?
Yes, you did, you little genius, you. You said that that Paul Sheldon I'm sorry, that Rob Reiner is, he's known for comedy, and he got a little flack for directing a horror movie. A hands down horror movie. Not only a horror movie, but a intellectual property that's coming from the master of horror.
Stephen King's adaptation, yeah.
So it's not even like he's getting his feet wet.
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. He's going straight to the front of the class, and all eyes are on him. And what resonated with Rob Reiner from the research that I did was his solidarity with Paul Sheldon. Because Paul Sheldon is a romance novelist, and he's not taken seriously. And he writes this novel, and he's trying to break out of his box that he's been put into. So it really, really, that's what struck Reiner, was he's like, oh my gosh, I'm actually going to be trying to do the same thing that Paul Sheldon's doing in the novel, and let's see what happens.
It's a very full circle type of situation.
I really wish, I wish Rob Reiner directed more. I know that he's, he's not, and I think it's a damn shame. He is one of our greats. Just absolutely one of our greats.
I agree. And he just seems like such an all-around, fun and loving guy, too,
And knows what he's doing.
I'd like to have a beer with him.
Oh, me too. Me too. And knows what he's doing and knows how to do it well.
Yes.
So, okay. I'm going to do a little smash or trash for you because we have to get into casting.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a lot of familiar faces. Maybe one or two that'll surprise you. But let's go through it. So we'll start off, of course, we almost start off every movie during the 80s and 90s with Harrison Ford was considered.
Yeah.
Then
I think he could have pulled it off.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah. Are we doing Smash or Trash, or are you just going to name them off?
No, I'm going to do Smash or Trash. You let me know if you like or no
so
like.
Harrison Ford, Smash.
Jack Nicholson is very close to taking this role.
I'm sure he was. But for the role that it's supposed to be, I'm going to go with Trash.
Okay, you're trashing.
Yeah. For the role that itself, not because I nothing against Jack Nicholson, just not the right role for him.
Who they really wanted, William Hurt.
Oh, that's right. They did really want William Hurt.
And it's funny because after you see the movie, of course, then you can't picture anybody in it but Jimmy Caan. But William Hurt, cerebral, softer. I mean, James Caan comes off as James Caan from Sunnyside, Queens. I happen to know he grew up in Sunnyside, Queens because my dad grew up in Woodside, Queens, and they used to hear about this crazy Jewish kid that would punch everybody from Sunnyside, Queens, and it turned out to be James Caan. True story. So, William Hurt, I'm curious, what are you giving it?
I think he could have pulled it off. I'll go with
Me
Smash.
too, I'm smashing.
Yeah, I would go with the Smash.
This guy has popped up in every single alternate casting that we've had so far. Kevin Kline.
Yes. Yeah.
Smashing?
Yeah, smash.
Me too. Michael Douglas.
Oh. I think he could have pulled it off.
Same.
Actually.
There's a lot of smashes here.
Yeah.
All these gentlemen. Okay, Dustin Hoffman.
That's an interesting one. Because I don't recall Dustin Hoffman.
This would have been during his, picture him in his Rain Man period. So,
yeah, it was like right around that time.
Yeah, right around then.
Yeah, I have a feeling he could have.
I think so too.
I would like to see it.
Okay.
Not gonna lie.
Robert De Niro.
No.
Okay, that's
I did, and I knew of it, and that was immediate no.
Al Pacino.
No.
Okay, trashing. Richard Dreyfuss.
Oh, I did hear about him.
Who they really wanted.
Yes, they did really want him.
This would be Dreyfuss during, he's on a hot hand now. He's done Stakeout.
Right.
And he's done Spielberg's Almost, I think. But anyway, we're in like a little bit of a Dreyfuss renaissance. We've got Mr. Holland's Opus. We've got the really great Barry Levinson movie, Tin Man. So he's in a real Dreyfuss prime.
Yeah, it's definitely not like a flat out no. I think he would have brought some, like, I feel like his character would have been a little more like comedic, like where like in the beginning when he's talking to his editor, where he's like, like, yeah, I wrote a book, but I never meant for Misery to be my life. You know, like like that whole thing. I feel like he would have punched in like a funny joke right there instead of kind of not being a crybaby. Like like by this point, Paul Sheldon, you could see he just looks defeated.
Yeah.
In a way, and but relieved that he wrote a book killing off Misery to be free of her. And I don't know. I feel like he just would have been a little more comedic about it.
So you smash or trash?
I'm gonna smash, but I think it would be a different type. I would be a whole different movie.
I think a lot of these would be different takes on it.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see what Richard Dreyfuss could do. He passed on it, regretted it dearly. He just said, yeah, that was one that just got away from me.
All right.
Gene Hackman? Different. Different.
I'll maybe go with trash.
Robert Redford.
No.
Warren Beatty.
Oh.
I got a funny story about this.
I didn't hear about Warren Beatty.
Oh boy. William Goldman tells the funniest damn story, or told the funniest damn story. He goes, all of these actors that I had mentioned were a definitive no. They, the offer was made, and they said, I'm going to pass on it.
Okay.
He goes, the only one that kept us hanging, and to this day still has not, even though the movie came out 25 years ago, is Warren Beatty has still not said no. Never gave an answer. Never gave an answer.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you're saying there's a chance.
And sinners, if you do a little research on Warren Beatty as far as like roles that he's done and roles he's passed on, this is quintessential Warren Beatty. He just keeps everyone waiting forever.
That's amazing.
Then we had Morgan Freeman.
Oh, that could have worked.
Right?
That totally could have worked.
Mel Gibson.
That could have worked too. At that time frame?
Yep.
Yeah, that could have worked.
Denzel Washington. Would have been young now. Would have been young.
He could have pulled it off.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Last one is interesting. This is the last one I have for you.
And I may have one more.
Okay.
After you.
Okay, my last one is Bruce Willis.
Oh, damn it. That's what I was going to say.
Okay.
Because he ends up doing it
on Broadway. I would have loved to have seen that with Laurie Metcalf.
I absolutely would have loved to have seen that.
Yeah, that would have been... Because this movie really is a play. We've got two characters. We have one setting. I mean, I know that we go off campus with Buster and the investigation, and we have a couple of beginning scenes and epilogue and prologue. But for the most part, we're in the bedroom. Yeah. I mean, it's very much. Not only is it's staged like a play, it's acted almost like a play. Mm-hmm. It is shot very much like a play. I definitely, when we get to the shoot part, which we'll get to in a minute, I definitely want to talk about Sonnenfeld's style. But let me save that for a hot second. Let's finish casting. So then we have a very short list of smash and trash for actresses because they were fortunate enough through William Goldman to land on Kathy Bates. But smash or trash these for me, if you will. Jessica Lange.
Oh, they really did want her. I remember. So she wouldn't have been able to pull off the comedic side of Annie. So Annie Wilkes was a very specific character to me, where Kathy Bates was able to pull it off, where she's a very traumatized individual that she masks with her fun and kooky side, which is why
she's
you don't
not
see
Nurse
it right
Ratched
away.
from One Flew Over's, where you're immediately like, I hate this person.
Yes, yeah, she would have been the mean, traumatized version, I think, the whole time. Because
okay.
Maybe not mean, but she would have been cold from beginning to end. where the point of Annie was there was a flip, and you didn't know what you were when she walked into the room. You weren't sure what side of her you were getting, and that was the exciting part of her character.
This will make everyone uncomfortable, but I'm so madly in love with Jessica Lange. If she was like, I'm your number one fan and I've kidnapped you, I'd be like, yeah, okay. Sounds good.
This is fine.
Okay. Yep.
Whole house on fire, you're in bed. This is fine.
How many books you want me to write? Okay, this next one. Look, I don't believe it, but I have seen it I try and vet my sources through multiple outlets. Barbra Streisand.
No.
Right?
No.
I mean, it's insane.
No.
It's insane.
And she was very well known. Like,
this one is serious, though. You got to think it's they're putting this together in, let's say, 87, 88. This Roseanne Barr.
Oh, at the time?
I mean,
she might have been able to pull it off.
She might have been able to pull it off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Rosie O'Donnell.
Okay.
You have to think she's got a little bit. She got some heat now because she's coming off of. Did
Stakeout come out already by this point?
Stakeout did, but not Stakeout 2 that you're thinking of. But the one oh my gosh, the baseball movie with Gina Davis and Tom Hanks.
Oh, A League of Their Own. Yeah.
So she's got some pepper.
I'm trying to think though. I don't know how menacing she could have been, but I feel like she could have. I feel like
if you're thinking Kathy Bates and you're thinking Rosie O'Donnell, yeah, you're like, okay.
Yeah.
I think I could see it.
I could see it.
All right. This one, let this simmer for just a hot sec before you smash or trash it. Mary Tyler Moore. She was desperate to have this role. She read the script and she's like, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. Now, think of Mary Tyler Moore as a killing nurse. Like, I feel like you could believe her. If you've seen Ordinary People, Mary Tyler Moore, as warm and fantastic as she is from the Mary Tyler Moore Show, which we know and love her for, but think of her in Ordinary People as the cold, very cold and distant, unloving mother. I feel like she could have really done something with this role, playing that coldness, and that, like, when Annie goes from I'm your number one fan to you're a cock-a-doodle dirty bird, and you're like, oh no, I think we might be in a little trouble. Like, I feel like Mary Tyler Moore could have really brought out the oh shit, we're in a lot of trouble.
Right.
So it's interesting.
That is interesting. I don't know. I might Warren Beatty that answer and just not answer.
Okay. Well, either way, it was a hard pass. Sorry, Mary. All right. That takes care of our casting. We'll go into the shoot. So the movie is mainly shot in Colorado. Mm-hmm. Beautiful, gorgeous Vista, Colorado, from what we get of it. Funny, we just even though the sinners don't know this, but we just left Colorado because of our fucking debacle of a Shining episode. Curses audio, but we seem to be spending a lot of time in Colorado these days. For such a place that's thought of and is, because I've been there, a wonderful, joyous, beautiful place. There's a lot of great horror movies that are based there. So we've got Reiner does a couple of things to I don't want to say control James Caan because it makes him sound like he's out of control. He's not. We'll get to a couple of stories of Jimmy being Jimmy. But he makes James Caan stay in bed.
Yeah, 15 weeks.
Yeah, for 15 weeks.
Yeah.
James Caan...
but that's the role.
He had a... Yeah.
I mean...
Caan had a great sense of humor about it, though. He says, you picked the most, like... my words, not his, spastic and ADD-riddled actor out there. Like, when you think of James Caan...
He used energetic.
Yeah, and that's, much, Mr. Caan, R.I.P., much better word than mine. But when you think of James Caan, you think of someone who's bounding over something, or crashing through a door, or, like, he's just... everything is expressive with James Caan. Look at him in The Godfather, for God's sakes. I mean, everything is talking with his hands and this, that, and the other. I mean, it's such a physical...
Well, that's just how Italians talk.
True. True. I mean, he's the most Italian Jew you've ever met in your life.
Yes.
But all right, I have to digress for a second. Because I love James Caan so much, and I love Robert Duvall, and they're fast friends. And Duvall tells great James Caan stories, and they would call him All-Star. because James Caan was such a natural athlete that no matter what it was, he could pick it up in a heartbeat.
Wow.
So, you know, they'd be screwing around, and like James Caan's making, I don't know, a movie like Comes a Horseman, so it's a Western. And James Caan hasn't ridden a horse or roped a day in his life. And within 48 hours, he's doing it. He's showing the stuntmen this is how to do it. And they would just call him All-Star because the guy could pick up anything and become a natural at it. If it had any sort of athletic inclination, he was a shoo-in. So I just thought that was funny. And it used to piss Robert Duvall off to no end because he's like, you know, I had to fucking do this thing for 7 months, and this asshole picks up a rope.
2 days.
And he's like, and not only was he doing it, but he's impressing all the women on set, you know?
And he wasn't a bad looker either, James Caan.
Oh,
so.
You want to really get into... You want to... Yeah, no, James Caan, kissable face, but just Google James Caan Playboy Playmates, and you'll have a thoroughly good time. I'm sure James Caan did. You know?
I'm sure he did.
Yeah, but he was a Playboy Mansion all-star, I suppose.
But I definitely think this one helped put him even more so on the map that he was already on, because so now granted he's stuck in bed for 15 weeks, which again was part of the role. After being in a car accident, obviously he really messed up his legs the first time.
Yeah. Oh.
Yes, I know. We'll get to it. But anyway, so he's being tended to. So basically his whole acting had to come from his facial expressions.
He's so good.
Which he pulled it off.
He's
very much so.
Of all the actors that we had mentioned on our Smash or Trash, and they are all just top peak performers, masters of their craft. I don't know that any one of them can sell pain better than Jimmy Caan. His expressions of even the slightest movement of his shoulder and his arm, when Annie's not even in the room, but he's just reaching for something.
Yeah.
He sells
he looked injured
how
to me.
broken his body is. And I think a lot of this is because James Caan, being James Caan, broke his body on countless film sets, doing tons of stupid shit in his personal life and on film sets.
Probably has some few creaks in the
litany of broken bones that James Caan had. All right, since we're Googling James Caan, Google James Caan and broken bones. And I mean, he walked the walk and he talked the talk. And in his own admission, he was excessively careless with his body. And he broke himself multiple times. So I think he really played into that, and he could get that across, because on rewatch yesterday, I saw it. Even the simplest thing is when he takes the blanket off, when he first initially sees how badly he's injured, and just the look on his face.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just literally takes the wind out of him, and he's like, I'm broken.
Yeah.
I'm just literally a rag doll that's been smashed into a million pieces.
And he's been, over his character-wise anyway, he's been, what's the word I'm looking for? He was broken, already, his spirit was broken.
Yes.
He had a little bit, he's like, I'm breaking away from misery, writing this new book. So he had a little bit of a, of a hope there to start something anew, but...
Well, Shannon, you're talking about the Paul Sheldon character.
Correct.
But that correlates to James Caan at this moment as well, because, like I said, this is late 80s. James Caan had a hot streak all through the late 60s, all through the 70s, but he went cold in the 80s and mid 80s. I mean, he really did. This was a lifeline for him.
Okay.
He the one James Caan story that I have, which is actually kind of sweet, is he did show up hungover as hell, and they did a full day shoot, and then Rob Reiner, to not hurt his feelings, it was unusable, so not hurt his feelings, he said, Jimmy, the lab screwed it up and we lost the entire day. Okay, and then he found out a couple of days later that it was because he was hungover. He actually went to the studio and he said, I'll pay for the day. And they didn't take him up on it, but you never hear that.
No.
You never hear that.
No.
So James Caan,
yeah,
well played.
Kisses all over your face.
Kisses all over your face. The body of work you have. Come on. Jonathan E. from Rollerball Alone. Please. Oh,
another great scene that I want to talk about. So I actually and Rob Reiner not for some reason, Jesus, for just
he just woke up crazy one day.
Just words barreling out of my mouth. Sometimes you just have to ignore them.
Oh, I know nothing about that. I'm a complete stranger to that.
I speak everything perfectly all the time, and my name is Sean.
Remember when I said my name was Sherm?
I do.
Sorry, go ahead.
But another great scene. So it's basically the scene where Paul Sheldon escapes from his room for the first time. Pisses Annie off.
It's almost hard to watch.
Yeah. So and think of how isn't it very Hitchcockian?
Yeah.
Induced, right? And so Rob Reiner said that that was the most difficult sequence to edit.
Yeah, great call about the Hitchcock.
And it was just the whole thing with him knocking over the penguin, and then
hearing Annie coming down the dirt drive.
Yeah.
Oh my god! I mean, there are two scenes. The first scene where he actually, I'm sorry, I'm confusing my scenes. He gets back in his room there, but that scene where he's in the wheelchair and he can't get through the kitchen to get to the phone.
Yes.
And then Annie comes back and he's profusely sweating, and she's like, "Why are you so sweating?"
What are you doing?
You know damn well why I'm saying. He's like, "I need my drugs." You know, which is very, very prevalent in the novel about Paul then having to get off of what is Norval? Novaril?
Novaril, yeah, I think so.
Novaril, something like that.
Yeah, it was a painkiller she was giving him, and he started pilling them in hopes to drug her at some point, which we'll get into that scene too.
I totally understand though Reiner saying, look, we got to jettison this. This is gonna we've got a nice tight 2 hours right now. We can't do 2 hours and 45 minutes about Paul getting off the drugs,
right?
The opioid, So I get why that was taken out of the movie, and I think that's a very smart decision. In the novel that plays heavily into it. And it makes it a better novel for it. So anyway, just to point out some of the differences there, some of the decisions that they had to make of what they were going to cut. They're good. They're spot on.
Yeah, I agree. And then, so that'll segue into the dinner sequence, right? Where now this is another expression-induced acting on James Caan's part. So his idea was that he was going to drug Annie with all of the pills that he's been pilling. He was able to crack them open, put all the powder, in a little, I think he made a little pocket from a piece of paper.
Slow and methodical. I love it.
Yep, and he asked, how about we have dinner tonight, blah, 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 let's get a glass of wine. And then so she pours it, they're about to toast, and then he's like, oh, let's do this right, you got any candles? So opportunity for her to leave the table. He pours the mixture into her drink, stirs it around, and then she spills the wine.
And the heartbreak.
And the look on his face, it's just
It's so, James Caan really does such a phenomenal job in this. It's interesting, I'm so happy for Kathy Bates. She gets nominated and she wins. James Caan deserved something.
He deserved something. Yeah, he absolutely, he'll have praise for the rest of...
Well, he gets our love.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so something a little interesting between Kathy Bates and James Caan. So you got... James Caan is just, almost like improvisational. Let's get to it, because he is, he's jumping Jimmy. He just wants to get in there and knock it out. And Kathy Bates, coming from the theater, is very much into preparation and rehearsal.
Yep.
So their two styles are diametrically opposed. And it did cause a little friction. They both... So the story that I heard was that Kathy Bates had to come to terms with a little less rehearsal, and James Caan had to come to terms with a little more rehearsal. Mm-hmm. And Rob Reiner was like, "We'll meet that sweet spot in the middle." And he told Kathy Bates, "You're frustrated. I can understand that. You want more. Use that in your character."
Yeah.
You said the same damn thing to James Caan.
I was just gonna say, because those opposals worked so well, because they're supposed to be opponents.
Yeah. So I just wanted the sinners to know that James Caan and Kathy Bates, even though they did clash on their styles initially, they became lifelong friends, good lifelong friends, and I just love that.
It brings a tear to your eye.
Right? Because I just think they're two phenomenal people. So to find out that they
made a beautiful story together.
They really did.
Yeah.
They really, really did. So I just, when I find out stuff like that, because there's so many stories of the opposite in Hollywood,
I know. They're like, we'll never work together again. And you're like, ugh.
I did want to mention a deleted scene, and then I know you want to bring up a couple of points, but one scene that I found out about that I'm dying to see is that there's a scene of a deputy going to the farm, and Annie Wilkes kills him with her ride-on mower, pulverizes him to death. And Kathy Bates wanted Rob Reiner to keep it so badly because she's like, it was so much fun to shoot, and I want people to see, like, you know, Annie's just crazy, and he's like, yeah, that's the point. Like, we have to keep you within the spectrum of sympathy for as long as we can, and eventually, of course, after she kills Buster, right out the window.
Oh yeah.
Then we're like, she must pay, but like. We've got to keep you on the bubble of the audience being like, well, she is, you know, she's mentally ill, and, you know, she has those light moments and those endearing moments when she's spinning around and she's so, like, happy.
Yeah.
You know, and she sells it so well, and he's like, we can't tip the cup over too soon, and that'll tip it over.
Right.
I'm like, also, Rob, maybe us finding out that she's killing babies tips it over immediately, you know?
Just a tad.
But that does come toward the latter end of the movie. So
it does, yeah. I had to remind my husband about that.
About the babies?
Well, he was saying, basically, like, we had a conversation where, like, you know, like, even though she's claiming to be, like, his #1 fan and everything like that, he's like, it's still all, like, especially in the beginning of the movie, it's still all coincidence, and she didn't, obviously, bring on that big storm. She did not tell Paul Sheldon to drive the way he was driving. If you see the very beginning of this movie, I'm like, he's driving like a fucking maniac.
He got shotgun playing. He's feeling it.
Shotgun playing. Yeah. He's definitely doing like 80 miles an hour. Maybe not 80, but fast enough. On the roads, on the side of a mountain.
Also,
of a snowy mountain, mind you.
Guess what car's not so great in the snow? A 68 Mustang.
Are you kidding? So, you know, so I understood his point. Like, you know, like, she really did, like, come to his rescue, and she just happened to be there. Like,
you don't feel like she was following him?
Well,
because she said she used to watch him write.
Well, that's what I started telling my husband.
Oh, you're telling Matt? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like, well, she, you know, like, I mean, granted, she probably had that farm for a long time, but she absolutely knew she knew his whole ritual. He would go to the same spot, which, you know, wasn't far from where she lived. You know, and she knew everything else about, you know, like the one cigarette, the champagne, when he would finish a book. She knew everything about him. But then I'm like, but he's not her first victim.
Nope.
And he looks at me, he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like...
Oh, so Maddie forgot all about the scrapbook.
Yeah, there's a scrapbook of all of the, you know, she was known as the Dragon Lady.
Well, and also, the first husband, I don't know that he's alive. There's a couple of administrative people there that went dead, and then, unfortunately, a couple children.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, she's got a book of death.
Yeah.
And we only saw a couple of pages.
Just a couple, yeah.
There's a lot of pages in that scrapbook.
Yeah, so this is definitely her mentality of, I mean, sure, there's a couple layers, but it was definitely a bipolar disorder going from one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
And it would flip to her attaching herself to somebody, and then to basically, like I mean, we always joke about it, but basically, like, when you see, like, a cute animal and you're just like, I just want to squeeze it. She literally does that. Like, I'm going to love you to death.
Here's the funny blurb that I read in my research is that they reached out to a psychologist. I believe it was Collider reached out to a psychologist and said, "Hey, could you do us a favor and just let us know what kind of what kind of mental affliction Annie Wilkes has?" And he came back with all of them.
Yeah, he's like, everything is wrong with her.
Like, all of them. She displays signs of just about everyone. So it's like, okay, it's like the perfect storm in Annie Wilkes. Annie Wilkes, Allie.
Who's Allie?
Allie was her sister, and you know what? Ironically, what a nice person.
Yeah. Sweetheart.
Drives a bookmobile in Tampa Bay. Yeah. Good on you, Allie.
But you mentioned, actually, no, I forgot what I was going to say. You go ahead.
Well, no, I just wanted to mention that deleted scene, but okay,
yeah.
You want to do it?
I forgot what I was going to say. It, like, literally left my brain.
Well, I wanted to get to the feet.
Okay.
I can hold on to that.
Oh, yeah, actually, because that's on my next thing.
All right, let me hear it.
Okay, really? Okay, I just remembered. So, when you mentioned before about Kathy Bates preparing rehearsal, blah, blah, blah. So, I think one reason, too, that she was able to pull off this character so well is because her and Rob Reiner, obviously, they don't really go into it at all via dialogue, or even visuals, from what I understand, but they created a whole background.
That makes a lot of sense.
Of, the fact of why she's a trauma. So they came up with the fact that she was an abused child, like sexually abused by her father type of child.
Okay.
So, and she suppressed this so deep down, and that's why when it pops up,
everything
like it
manifests.
just, it's almost kind of like a bubbling pot of water. And that... Yeah, she won the back wearing the Vincent Price shirt.
How interesting is it that she would go and do Dolores Claiborne, which has that incest angle as well.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Another Stephen King.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A good Stephen King, and I feel like doesn't get enough love.
Right.
Dolores Claiborne just kind of came and went.
Yep.
Huh.
We're going to bring that back.
Yeah,
somehow.
we are.
Yeah.
When we get to our Eclipse month, we're going to bring that one back.
High five.
That makes so much sense that they did the hard yards and they did the backstory. And boy, oh boy, you know what? Because her performance is so lived in and it's so natural.
Yeah.
Man, she's so good.
Yep.
She's so
good.
So
her and Reiner came up with that, and I just thought that was interesting because...
What an actor.
Yeah, you can totally see that in her acting as well, so...
Okay.
Yeah, okay, now...
Let's talk about it.
I literally just wrote hobbling scene with exclamation points.
Okay. So, let's start with the fact that William Goldman wrote the amputation scene like I said, we spoil the hell out of everything. So in the book, Paul has his foot cut off.
Right.
And Goldman was like, "No, Rob, we gotta keep it. I wrote it so well. It's just the audience is gonna freak the fuck out." My words, not William Goldman's, but he's from New York. It's probably something similar.
It's probably similar.
And Rob's pushing back. We're gonna lose the audience. And he's like, "How? How are we gonna lose the audience?" And he goes, "Because we still have them, just like the lawnmower scene that got deleted. We still have the audience." Somewhat sympathetic toward Annie because of what she has not done. She's done terrible things to Paul, but it's what she has not done is keeping that one thread, that one sliver that we can hold on to. She cuts his damn foot off, they're gone. And so William Goldman, being a consummate professional, writes the scene that we see. And he does come out later and say, Rob was absolutely right. He goes, on the finish,
I feel like it's worse. I'm like, I'd rather get my foot cut off.
I think you might be right.
I'd rather get it cut off than what actually fucking happens.
I mean, but that scene in the book, because Sinners, just so you know, he gets his foot cut off with an axe, and then she cauterizes it with hot iron. And it's...
the best thing she could have done. Or
he would have bled. Yeah. But I mean, it's just... It would have taken... Yeah, I don't know. In my mind, I can't... I'm picturing it, and I'm like, I don't know, the hobbling scene is... Okay. So, Goldman does the right thing, and admits it later on down the road. He's absolutely right. You know what? I was seeing the script up to that point and no further, and then when I saw the finished product, Rob's vision was the right one. Mm. Okay, so how do they make this work? So they construct two like shin casts with gelatin feet.
Okay.
Now what James Caan is able to do is he's able to put his legs in, so like the cast start, like his legs go down through the bed, and then the fake legs start from the knees down.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then they put
that makes sense. Yeah.
They have wires connected to feet made out of gelatin. Hard gelatin, not like
not Jello, so it's just
they weren't lime flavored, but
I'm just picturing two jiggly feet now.
They need to come up with a way that the foot.
Can someone make that YouTube parody for me, please?
Could you imagine? It's like 2 lime gelatins, but please put Dwight's stapler in them from The Office. You know?
With swing line, the red swing line stapler. Amazing.
So it had to be. They put these wires in so that when the sledgehammer hit the feet, it would bend. In their words, not mine. At the most horrific angle you could possibly imagine.
And it does. It's to the point where I can't even watch it.
But
I know it's a fake foot. I can't even look at it.
Kisses to the practical effects in this movie where there aren't many. The makeup is very good because you have Paul in his various injuries. But there's not a whole hell of a lot of practical, but this is just, oh boy, this is really, really good. Really good, Shannon!
And this is the song of the magic of
movie making! You know what though? I this is like jazz. I'm going off on my own riff. Practical, gotta love it. Practical, gotta love it. I feel like we need a tambourine.
You get the tambourine, I'll get the triangle.
Just that, like, how that ankle bends, and then James Caan selling it through his screams. But then Kathy Bates with almost this euphoric, it's almost like sexual, where she's like, God, I love you, after she
bashes
both of his feet.
Both of them. And the second one, I think I still close my eyes for the second one.
I think the audience did collectively.
Yeah, because that one is off camera, purposefully.
Yeah.
They only showed one.
Yeah.
And that was purposeful.
Sound. Oh, shout out to the Soundadyne for that. Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay, so as far as the shoot goes, that's all the notes that I had for the shoot. Do you have anything that you'd like to talk about?
Well, actually, you meant like the whole like lovemaking thing. I wanted to segue into the fight scene.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, because the fight scene. So the fight scene was, obviously due to his injuries. Paul Sheldon speaking. I'm sure it had to be done in this fashion anyway. It made sense to only do it in this fashion. But Rob Reiner wanted it. He has said it had to be up close and personal. As if it was like, because now, however twisted you want to take this route, we're at a point, they have established a relationship. Granted, it's unwarranted, on one angle, but now it's so personal. It's so personal on so many different levels because, again, spoiler alerts. We already spoiled a couple things. Anyway, the book that Paul Sheldon writes, she made him burn it.
Yep.
Okay, so now she took that away from him. She made him dip right back into misery, a place where he did not want to go. Okay. And now she also spilled the goddamn wine. Did I mention that?
And she got him back on drugs. It's not mentioned in the movie, but it's very prevalent in the books, as we said.
Yeah.
He's in recovery.
Yeah.
So now he's back on drugs.
Yeah.
I mean, she's really doing a number on our Paul.
Yes. So, yeah. So, and now she makes him. Now she makes him write another book.
Can I mention something? I just want to play off something that you mentioned. So you said, like, okay, the relationship. I failed to mention the cinematography by Barry Sonnenfeld. When I initially saw this movie, I didn't get it, what I'm alluding to. But when I saw it when I was a little bit older and saw it on later rewatches, Sonnenfeld and Reiner, it's very much close-up of Caan, close-up of Bates. At best we get a medium shot of Caan, medium shot of Bates, not a lot of over the shoulder of Bates where we get to see the room like it's very tight.
Yeah.
It's very tight and claustrophobic.
Yes.
I didn't get that the first time I watched it, and like subconsciously it bothered me. I'm like, why does it look like this? Everything's tight. Because I was a dumb kid. Now I'm just a dumb adult. But I know a little bit more because I watch 8 billion movies. Like, they're very purposefully making everything tight because you are trapped along with Paul.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of that just, face. And it
worked.
It works so incredibly well. And it also keeps you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because you're really forced in Annie's face. And especially at moments where you want to recoil from her.
Yeah.
And Reiner and Sonnenfeld make you get right up in her grill.
Yep.
And I love a movie when it dawns on me, when it gets through this thick coconut, where I'm like, that's what they're doing. And then it's like, jazz hands, you know? And I just absolutely love it. And, you know, hey, look, to the filmmakers, you've got a flawed audience person here to work with, so good on you, you know? But I really love Sonnenfeld's cinematography now because I get it.
Yeah.
You know, what they're working at doing.
It's very purposeful.
Oh, boy.
Like, every angle. It's, yeah, and you could tell.
And even no, I want to get to the fight, though. Mm-hmm. Even during the fight, you know, we're not at wide angles. We're at close-ups. It's very intimate.
Very close.
Which plays off of what you're talking about. This is the breakup of the couple.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, he would, like, just one last go.
Yeah.
But obviously, it wasn't like, Paul Sheldon could just get up. You know, he literally had to, like, flip his whole upper body.
Propel himself.
Out of the wheelchair after he, you know, and he did it the best he could. He literally did workouts with the typewriter to strengthen up his upper body by this point, and you know, to get to the point where he could pick it up and smash it over her head when he tricked her basically into a position. Which was very interesting, and the whole line she makes him type a whole book to bring Misery back, and you know, he gets in position, you know, because he's like, oh, go get the champagne, I'm about to finish it, and he's like, oh yeah, it's all right here, and then he burns it in front of her, and he's like, oh, I learned it by watching you. We're like, yes! Speaking of jazz hands.
I was jazz hands yesterday.
Jazz hands moment.
I mean, those movies where you feel the vindication that the protagonist feels, and you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
How about okay? So I saw this opening weekend when it came out in 1990. Plano Movie Theater, mention it ad nauseum on this podcast, but I happened to see it there. I told you the thing where I have a weird thing where I almost remember every single movie theater I've seen every single movie in my life in.
Yeah, you're weird.
It's weird. It's
I can't remember what I had for breakfast. I already forgot.
Here's a fun fact, sinners. That ability can make you $0. Literally $0. It's the most useless skill. Other than to amuse myself. But anyway. So, seeing it opening weekend, packed house. I mean, the word got out on Misery from the kids who saw it Friday.
Yeah.
You got to see it Saturday.
And Stephen King is very well known by this point.
Oh, and I mean, you're talking about Rob Reiner. For a geek like me, I'm like, oh, I love Rob Reiner. Harry Met Sally and,
Princess Bride.
Princess Bride and Stand By Me.
Yeah.
So, the part... And I have to quote it. The part where Paul, during the fight, where he's shoving the ashes of his Misery novel down her throat, and he goes, eat it till you choke, you sick, twisted fuck. You have never heard a theater go more bananas during this scene. Because, I mean, we've all collectively been tortured by Annie Wilkes for almost 2 hours.
Yeah.
And it was one of those cathartic moments where the entire audience just lost their shit. And I love those. I mean, we still get them. Look, it is not stopped. We still get them to this day, depending on what movie you're seeing. You know, something like this happens, and you're just like, oh, this is so great. And I just, I just got such a kick out of going down memory lane and remembering that. Oh, I love those movies. What's the last movie that you think you've cheered at?
The last movie that I cheered at, it might have been, if there's one after that, it's escaping me for the moment, but the last one the one that immediately popped into my brain, was Cabin in the Woods, when when you're already in the underground and you just hear all the elevators, ding! and just carnage ensues. I was just like,
Shannon, how we have not put Cabin in the Woods on our 24 schedule, we're going to have to amend that.
Yeah, we'll fit it in.
Yeah, we're going to fit it in
We're going to have to go back into it, because I have a lot of fun facts about that one.
And there's no friggin' way we're waiting a year plus until we do that.
When's our creature feature?
Oh, shoot. Oh, there you go. It's the summer.
Feature. Yeah.
I think it's July. Yeah, it's going in there. Because that's all the creatures.
It's all of them.
Oh, I love that movie so much. Yeah, you know what? I'm with you on that. We're done with the shoot. Post-production is pretty much just a love story all over the place. Movie comes out, triples its budget domestically. I don't even know what it made total with international. Another Rob Reiner hit. James Caan, really gets back on a solid platform and starts, goes on to have a really great career. Not that he didn't, but he just starts to get offered more roles, which I'm ecstatically happy for him. Kathy Bates wins the Oscar. I mean, this is really like the beginning of her film career.
Right.
So it's so exciting for her, and I mean, her body of work is just incredible. So it really is just kisses all over the damn place as far as this movie goes. Stephen King says this is absolutely one of the best adaptations of his works because he's a realist.
And thank goodness, because, this was a very personal... I know we mentioned it already, but this was so personal to him. Because Annie Wilkes, I guess we'll get into it now. Annie Wilkes was definitely a metaphor
for his drug addiction.
His drug and alcohol addiction at the time.
He felt like he was a prisoner. And I mean, it was very much a prisoner of his addictions. And, I mean... just the ability to take that kind of trauma and that experience and put it into such an incredibly great novel, I mean, it's beyond what I can wrap my head around. But thank goodness there are people out there that have this ability where, thanks.
Turn the trauma into like therapy and turn it into art and share it with the world on a different type of scale.
I just drone on and bother people on bar stools. I went in a completely different direction. So that's pretty much it for Misery. We're coming in, about an hour and 15. So let's wrap it on up.
Sure.
We will. Next week we're doing The Blackcoat's Daughter.
Yes.
I just want... the reason I'm mentioning it, because sometimes we don't. Sometimes we like to surprise you what we're doing.
Well, sometimes we also change, last minute. So we go back and forth on whether we should announce. So just know if we announce, it may not be true.
Yeah, we may lie.
We may be liars.
But the reason...
I really do want to do The Blackcoat's Daughter.
Me too. The reason I wanted to bring it up is because it's unwatched. A lot of people don't know about this movie, and it's one of the scariest movies.
It's to me, it's fucking terrifying.
It is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
So Sinners, that's why we're bringing it up, because if you haven't seen The Blackcoat's Daughter, I just wanted to put it on your radar because this has been and will continue to show up on the best horror movies of the 2000s and the best horror movies in the past 10 years. It is on every single one of those lists, and trust me, Sinners, we go over these lists endlessly so that we can bring really good movies to your attention, and this is just one of them. So if you haven't seen it, boy,
just be forewarned. I think it's a cold story that it begins cold, it has a cold middle, and it just ends cold. And I don't mean I guess figuratively and literally.
I mean, Shannon, would it be accurate to say that this movie, it's horrifying?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't use that word lightly. We probably, between Shannon and I, we probably have a dozen movies that we would definitively say, this is horrifying and it will affect you. This is one of those movies.
One of those, yeah.
So, enjoy.
So grab your popcorn and...
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God. All right, so I watched this movie this week, and I immediately then watched the Nicolas Cage, Bridget Fonda split a lottery ticket movie, because it just happened to be on Amazon, and I was like, I need to watch something nice.
I need to feel good about life again.
I gotta watch something where people are happy. But that's not to take anything away from The Blackcoat's Daughter. You must watch this film. It's a masterpiece. I mean, I'm going to put it out there. I
agree.
For a movie that so few people have seen, the chronology of it and the characterization and what it ultimately means, and the heartbreak and just the way it's shot. Boy, oh boy, you're in for a treat. Yeah, you're in for.
I know we'll get into
something.
We'll get it. We're about to start a second episode.
Yeah, Jesus, I'm blathering, and we're going to talk about this next week. Okay, so Sinners, I can't do anything until Shannon gets us out of here.
And that's a cut.
Watch The Blackcoat's Daughter.